Okay guys, today I will show you how to repair an iPhone 4G front screen. Before we commence with this repair, we will need to turn the device off. Now for this repair we will be using the iPhone 4G flowchart created by LogicFix.com.au to help you with this repair. Now depending how old your iPhone 4G is, you might need to use either a pentalobe screwdriver or a Phillips head screwdriver to commence with the first step. So let's take these two screws off. Also, let's remove the SIM card tray from the phone. Now we can simply take the back cover off. To do this, you'll need to slide it forwards and then simply pop it off like so. Okay, now that we have taken the back cover off, we can take the battery connector off right here. To do this, we will need the Phillips head screwdriver. Now that you have taken the screw off, we can simply pop the connector off like so, using your spudger tool. Now once you have popped the connector off, you will need to pick up this grounding clip. Simply place it on the flowchart. Now that we have unplugged the battery, we can simply take the battery out of the phone. To do this, you will need to lift it up like so. There we go. Alright, now that we have taken the battery off, just leave it to the side. And now we will need to take these two screws off to release this EMF shield. Okay, now that the screws are out, we can simply lift up the EMF shield. There we go. Just leave it on step number 4. Now that the EMF shield is off, the connector is exposed, so we will need to unplug it before we commence into the next step. And lift the connector up and bend it to the left. Right here, we will need to take this connector off. Like so. And just bend it to the side. Okay, now that we have unplugged the antenna, we can take these two screws off to release the speaker assembly. Now you can simply lift up the speaker assembly off and just leave it to the side. Okay, now that we have taken pretty much everything on the bottom off, we can move on to the top, where we will find 5 screws right here. Now all of these screws are marked on the flowchart, and as you take it off, just leave it on the correct position on the flowchart. Okay, now that we have taken out all the screws for the EMF shield, we will need to release 2 clips, one here and one here. So just put your spudger tool and simply remove the clip, and there we go. Should come right off. Now you'll see on your flowchart that there's some connectors marked with orange. That means you will need to unplug all these connectors that are marked: camera, digitizer, LCD, and 3 other connectors. So let's go ahead and unplug these using a spudger tool. Now all we need to do to release the logic board itself is to remove a screw right here and here. Now we'll start off with the top screw. The top screw is actually a specialized screw. Now we can take this white screw out, which is usually covered with a white sticker. Now we can simply lift up the logic board. I like to start from the bottom and then lift it up and place it to the side. That we have taken the logic board out, we will need to take out the vibrating motor. Okay, now we can just lift up the vibrating motor and place it on step number 11. Now after taking the vibrating motor, a screw right here is exposed. Now to take the front assembly itself off, you will need to take out this screw right here, and this one right here, and this one right here, and also this one. So these 4 screws are based on every corner of your iPhone. So let's go ahead and unscrew them. Okay, now that we have taken the 4 screws from each corner of the phone, now one of the last steps that you need to do to release the front assembly itself is to loosen up these 6 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, let's go ahead and loosen them. Like I said, just 1.5 times. Yeah, there we go. Okay, now that we have loosened up these 6 screws, your front assembly should be ready to be taken off now. Now let's grab the black nylon spudger and basically wedge it in between the bezel and the screen. So once you get an opening, just stick it through and basically leverage it. Like so. Now if you are having a hard time, what you can do is get a hairdryer and apply some heat to this area and the bottom, because it is held in place with 3M adhesive, so it just makes your job easier if you just apply some heat. Now let's go ahead and do the same thing to the bottom half. Basically insert it and Okay. Now if you're having a hard time doing this with the nylon spudger, what you can do is try and get the flathead screwdriver, and because it is a much harder material, you will have a better time trying to take the screen off, but you just need to worry about not scratching the bezel itself. Okay, now that the screen is free, we'll need to pass the digitizer flex cable and the LCD flex cable through the mainframe, and just be careful with this step. Okay, there we go. Okay, now that we have taken the LCD and digitizer off the mainframe, we'll need to actually go back and remove this adhesive that's on both ends of this device. So just grab your nylon spudger tool and just basically do as this. It should come off without any hassle, but sometimes the glue is just stuck there a bit. There we go. Alright, just keep doing this till you get pretty much every bit of adhesive off the front screen. Alright, now we'll move on to the bottom. There we go. And last bit just on this side. Alright, there we go. Okay, now that we have taken all the adhesive off the mainframe, we can start prepping up our new screen for installation. Okay, now let's get our new screen out. Okay, so we finally got our new screen out. Let's take this protective film off. Okay. Now we need something from the old screen. We need the earpiece mesh. So just for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to use my tweezers. Here we go. We just need this piece. And what we need to do is basically just reapply it on the new screen. Okay, seems like it's good. Alright, now that the screen is prepped up, you'll need to pass these two cables through this hole right here. Digitizer and LCD cables. So start off by putting the cables in through first. Now that you have the cables in, you'll need to basically get both of the cables in. Okay. Now before you reseat the LCD and digitizer, just have a look and make sure that the digitizer cable itself is the same length as the LCD cable. If that is actually shorter or longer than the LCD cable, what has happened is one of the cables has gotten stuck behind the LCD and digitizer. So just go back and just reseat the two cables. So if they're just like this, same length, that means you're all good. You just need to reseat the LCD. Now just got to make sure that all the edges of the device is sitting comfortably in the mid frame. As you can see, it's a perfect fit. Okay, now all we need to do is just go back and repeat the process backwards. So we'll start off by installing these 4 screws on the corners. Now you will find these 4 screws on step number 14 of our flowchart. So let's go ahead and do that. Now when you're tightening these screws, you don't need to tighten them too much, because you will risk actually stripping the screw. So if you do that, there's actually no way to actually perform another repair after that, unless you manage to break the screw. Okay, now that you have installed these 4 screws on every edge of the device, you will need to go back and retighten these 6 screws. Now if you accidentally remove these, make sure the arrangement of the screw is actually the washer and then the screw. Okay, so the washer is first and then the screw. Okay, let's go and tighten these. Now as you're tightening these screws, just make sure to apply some pressure to the LCD and the bezel itself, so you get a nice tight fitting, because these screws actually are compression screws. So now that we have these screws tightened up properly, just go back and see if you have any space between the LCD digitizer and the mid frame. Now in my case there aren't any, so we're all good to go to the next step. So now we can start off by reinstalling the motherboard. Now I like to put the top in first and basically sit it down. Now a couple of ways to check if you actually did reseat your motherboard properly is to check right here and see if the motherboard is actually inside this clip right here. It should be on the other side, just like this. It shouldn't be on the top or on the side, it should be right behind it. Alright, now that this is sitting properly, we can install that specialized screw from step number 12 of the flowchart. Now this is the screw that uses a flathead right there. Okay, let's go ahead and tighten that screw. Not too much, as you do not want to put too much pressure on the logic board. Okay, and now get the other screw from step number 12 and apply it right here. Okay. Now that those 2 screws are back in, the motherboard should be sitting properly. So you can go ahead and reinstall these 3 connections right here. When you're popping these connectors back on, you should hear a pop, more of a click. Okay. Now let's grab the camera from step number 10, place it back into place. Okay, it should be nice and flush with the main frame, and basically pop the connector back into place right there. And now we can start off with the LCD cable, which is the thickest cable. So now let's go ahead and plug that one back in. Okay, you should hear a click. If your cable is not actually plugging in properly, what you can do is just bend it from here, just bend it from the top, and after that it should just click into place like so. And now let's put the digitizer back into place. Okay, you should hear a click like all the others. Now let's grab the vibrating motor from step number 11. Okay, let's place the vibrating motor back into place right here, and grab the screws as well from step number 11. Now there is a larger screw, a taller one, and then a shorter one. The taller one will go on the left side, like so, and the shorter one will go on the right side. Now that the vibrating motor is back in, we can grab our speaker assembly. Do this, just place it, and you basically need to get this corner under the logic board. So just put it through, and basically, there we go. It should just click back into place. Now let's go and install these two screws that go here. You'll find these two screws on step number 7. Okay, now that those screws are back in, your speaker assembly should be sitting nice and flush with the mainframe. Now that the speaker assembly is back in place, we can go ahead and plug this connector back in. Just be careful when you're doing this, just take your time, as if you damage this connector you probably won't be able to get it replaced, so just take your time with this step. And as you can see, even I'm having trouble. You should hear a click, and it should be back in place. There we go. Now you can simply bend this cable and plug it back in. You should hear a click. Now let's go ahead and put the EMF shield back on. Okay, you'll notice that there are two clips right here and here. You'll need to put the two clips through these cutouts right here. So what I like to do is place the top on first, so the top's on, and basically slide it forwards so all the holes line up. There we go. The tallest screw actually goes right on the top, and go ahead and find the fattest screw, and this one goes right on the left side of the EMF shield. Go ahead and put that on. Alright, now that all 5 screws are back in the EMF shield, we can finally move on to putting the other EMF shield on, which you will find on step number 4. It's this one right here. And just position it, find the right screws. Now there is a big screw and a smaller screw. The big screw goes on the right side, and the smaller screw goes on the left side. Okay. Now that all that is back in, we can get the metal grounding clip from step number 2 and reinstall it on the logic board. Basically right here. Okay. Now grab your battery and reconnect it. Like so. You should hear a click. Alright. So now it should look like this. So the metal grounding clip itself is actually on the bottom of the battery connector. Okay, now let's go ahead and grab the screw from step number 2 and reinstall that to secure the battery connection. Okay, now grab your back cover, place it like so, so there's a little bit of room on the top, and grab with both hands and basically slide it back. Now that the back cover is in place, go ahead and replace your pentalobe screws from step number 1. Okay. Don't need to tighten these too much. As long as they're flush with the main frame, it's all good. Okay, now that that's nice and flush with the main frame, congratulations, you're done.